Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Read Only podcast. This is officially Season 2, Episode 1. Many years later, as we discovered, apparently it's been 2 years since the last time that we've put one of these out, or when we started, which is crazy. And we've got our usual host. We've got Mr. Flav with us from the last season, as well as a guest in Ara, who has guested last season as well.
Hello.
And today we are going to be basically covering the Switch 2 Extravaganza, as I'm calling it, as there's plenty to talk about, and this will basically be an episode entirely focused on everything Switch 2. So, yes, it is, we've got plenty to speak about, but before we get into that, how is everyone doing today? Flav, do anything special today?
Not anything special, except we're restarting up the podcast again.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Work going good, weather good over there? How's the weather been lately?
Yeah. Lots of rain. Just unusual here.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I assume you guys are, because you're both Southern Hemisphere, you guys like starting to shift into fall or autumn. When does that happen? Or has that already happened?
Autumn is now.
Oh, you're in it already.
It's happening now.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okie dokie. And Ara, how are you? Anything funky happened today?
Not particularly. It's been pretty good. Pretty good all around.
Yeah, cool. Sounds good. As for me, nothing really notable to point out. So I say we can just dive straight into the Switch 2 Extravaganza. So as everybody knows, Switch 2 Direct happened a couple... How long ago was it now? Has it been a week? I think it's probably been about a week now. It's Wednesday, wasn't it?
It was on the 2nd. It's
so,
8.
Yeah, 5 days now. So, obviously there was lots and lots revealed. Lots about the console, lots about the first-party games, lots about the third-party games, and a whole lot of community reactions. So I think probably the best place to start is we kind of go over the actual system itself. So obviously, as was rumored, we've got the mouse mode ended up being confirmed. The actual screen itself is an LCD. It was 120 FPS, as was rumored. And as a lot of people aren't very happy about is the news about the battery life, though if I'm completely honest, I'm not particularly surprised. Flav, have you managed to kind of find anything about the specific console specs? Like, do we know anything from any of the manufacturers? Like, what chipset it's using? Anything special like that?
Oh, so it will be running something from NVIDIA in a custom-made processor. And the GPU will have dedicated RT cores and tensor cores. So we expect some, ray tracing and DLSS in the Switch.
Damn.
And they did say that the graphics performance will be 10 times more powerful than the original Switch.
Jesus.
So
do you know, do you kind of have any reference of a benchmark of like what that is compared to the modern competitors? Like, do you know what the Steam Deck output, do you know what that's compared like to the PlayStation? Is it comparable or is it still a bit behind? Do you know?
I don't have the exact value right now, but I heard apparently it was just about 7% faster than a Steam Deck.
Oh, excellent. Okay.
That's what I heard, but but I think probably the PlayStation 5 and Xbox are probably still much faster.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, and naturally that's going to be the case considering they're full-on systems, and Switch 2 is still technically just a tablet. So for it to be up there kind of fighting alongside the consoles in of itself is actually a pretty impressive feat.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay.
Switch has always been like a generation behind, so
yeah, it's crazy to actually see high frame rate games and high resolution games coming out of a Nintendo system. It feels like that's something that was just never going to happen, and yet supposedly here we actually are.
Agreed. Yeah. So, interesting.
So obviously the big funky console gimmick this time around is the mouse functionality. So what are you guys' thoughts and impressions about the utilization of the mouse?
For me, I think it will make FPS games actually quite enjoyable. I'm looking forward to trying out and seeing, like, is it doable? Is it like a good replacement for a normal mouse? And playing a lot more FPS games. That'll be a lot of fun on the Switch, actually, just to have that experience.
Or as I'm sure you're... Oh, sorry, go ahead, Flav.
No, I just said for me, I'll just wait and see what happens, but looking forward.
Fair enough. Or as I'm sure you're on the same boat as me, the idea of playing Metroid Prime 4 with mouse control is like just something that's like holy shit. And
yeah, it's pretty. I'm glad we're there.
There's a lot of the previews so far from the closed invitations to the Switch 2. All of the demoing was only in mouse mode, and no one had any complaints. And people were pointing out the fact that the game felt almost designed for mouse mode, which means it's going to be super intuitive and it's going to play so much better that way. There's still gyro controls, there's still stick controls, they're not getting rid of that. And apparently it's literally as simple as if you've got, say, the right Joy-Con flipped in mouse mode, if you immediately turn it 90 degrees and start using the stick, there's like no delay. It just immediately goes to dual stick controls, which I think is crazy.
I'm honestly very jealous that we don't have those demos over here in Australia, because I would have loved to play it early.
Mm.
I think it's pretty impressive that we have mouse controls. I think the setup is a bit silly. Like, to have I can just imagine people putting mouse pads on their coffee tables and kneeling and full arm, like, aiming with the Joy-Cons.
Yeah.
But I still think it's, like, a good step in the future.
Now, here's a funny question for both of you, in regards to whether you think this will happen or not. Obviously, now that we've got the mouse controls, I wasn't really giving this much thought until it was officially confirmed, but now that it is, you've got people saying about what if Nintendo released like a WASD peripheral as like a not as a Joy-Con, but you can get a WASD peripheral, so then you would be able to play virtually mouse and keyboard controls on a Switch. Do you think that's something they would actually consider, or is that too far away from console games and such?
I think that might be too far away for console games, but it'd be really cool if they do that somehow.
I think that
sounds pretty
leans
fun.
too close to PCs unless... I think it's too complicated. Nintendo kind of thrives on simplicity, and I think that's just... Like, especially because they're targeted towards kids most of the time, I don't think it's realistic for a kid to learn how to use a controller and, like... I mean,
Here we go. Okay, weird jump cut, because my monitor decided it wanted to shit itself. I know where we left off. So Flav, you were about to kind of give your take on, obviously the inclusion of that. So if you could just kind of recap what you said.
Of course. Because I think maybe it's targeted toward kids. Nintendo could release maybe like a simple controller, up, down, left, right, in maybe the shape of WSAD. So I mean, something like that could work. But
I suppose it could be like
agree,
the arrow keys on a keyboard instead of WSD, really.
Yeah. Yeah, so it could just be the arrow keys. But I do agree, it does sound a bit too PC, so maybe they won't do that. But I'm curious to see what they will do.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of kids, we are going to be a kid now and a squid now. I am absolutely looking forward to playing Splatoon with mouse controls, because I think I'm going to go and own all of those kids the moment I get access to that. And that might make me get more into Splatoon than I was in the past, because as much as everybody sings the praises of gyro control and how well they say it works, it was just something I never really jived with. So if I can get a mouse controlling Splatoon game and like Salmon Run and stuff, dude, that could become like one of my new most played games, honestly.
do we have confirmation for compatibility with Splatoon 3? Or is that
It's weird because it seems like in order for games to utilize the Switch 2 features, they need to have a Switch 2 edition released. So it's a question of whether they're going to do a Switch 2 edition of Splatoon 3, or they're just going to go straight for Splatoon 4. I think that's going to be the question that needs to be asked, and that will give us the answer, I think. Because at the moment, I don't know which way they're going to go. Yeah. Probably Splatoon 4, I would think, but...
I think most likely it'll be Splatoon 4, because the life cycle of Splatoon is actually fairly short. Like, within 2 years, it's over. Like, it's a lot shorter than you'd think, even probably a year and a half.
It is literally Nintendo's Call of Duty, really, if you think about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it has way more replay value than a year and a half to 2 years, but that's just how it is, unfortunately. So I think Splatoon 4 would be the most, probably to them, the most logical way to go.
Yeah, fair enough. And I mean, we're already kind of talking about first-party games, so I guess, does anybody have anything left to say about the console specs, hardware? I suppose we should probably cover the battery thing, actually, briefly. obviously I know everybody's kind of going, oh, well, the battery is less than Switch One. Oh. But
Yeah,
the thing,
so
the thing that I find personally with that at the moment is because it seems like it's so much easier to charge the Switch 2 in handheld or tabletop. I really don't see it being an issue.
Mhm.
yeah, I agree with you there. Because I think they said that the max battery life for the Switch 2 will be 6 hours, but unfortunately, with
6.5,
me doing
yeah.
work, I don't obviously I don't think I'd ever have 6 hours to myself where I constantly play
Mhm.
it and in portable mode.
Yeah,
At best, I'll have it connected to the TV.
and also for the people that use it for that kind of duration for long distance traveling, like say on trains, on planes, they all nowadays, most modern trains and planes have outlets at the seats. So
We
it's
also have things like portable chargers.
yeah, exactly. So as much as this everyone likes to think that this battery life thing is an issue, which to be fair, I don't know how anyone expected it to not be worse considering how much more powerful it is. I just don't see it being an issue because how much easier it is to charge it. Because before, obviously, with the charging cable of charging port being on the bottom, if you were playing in tabletop mode, you were just screwed and you couldn't charge it at the same time. But now they've fixed that with the Switch 2, and you can charge it from the top. So pretty much, like, I can't think of any situation in which you'd be playing for that long in handheld or tabletop mode and not have access to a power source.
Hmm.
I agree. It's
I'll be honest, I was admittedly a little bit upset about the battery life when I first heard about it, and then I kind of took a couple days to think about it, and I'm not as upset about it. The one thing I'm concerned about, and we won't know this until people actually have the console, is it says 2 hours to 6.5, and obviously they have games like Cyberpunk, Elden Ring, Street Fighter 6, and whatnot on the Switch. Are those games going to be only 2 hour play sessions, or will they be 6.5? Like, I'm curious on what games fit into what area of that range. So that's the only concern I have. If you're playing the higher end games that are coming to the Switch, you're not going to have a lot of time to play them, and they might be completely unrealistic for. With, sorry. So that's the only thing that I'm concerned with. But I think the fact that it's stayed the same and it's not less is something that I think people can deal with and won't fuss about in a couple months' time.
And again, like I said, if like try and name a situation where someone's going to be sat on their Switch 2 playing Cyberpunk for 2 hours in handheld or um, tabletop and not have access to a power supply.
Frankly, I don't
yeah,
think anybody's going to be playing Cyberpunk on the Switch, but
Well,
yeah, I know what you mean.
real. So I think in regard that the kind of the battery backlash, I think it's a little bit misplaced because people forget like that we're in the
Yeah.
modern day and there's a fucking power
yeah,
outlet everywhere. Even if you're sat waiting in airports nowadays, there's places you can just plug in. So there's
Mhm.
very few long like duration places where you won't be able to just keep playing as long as you want. So I don't think that's as much of an issue.
I agree.
No, I agree.
And
Yeah,
we won't know until the actual Switch comes out. So for now, it's just mostly speculation and what
yeah.
Nintendo has told us.
Yeah, pretty much. So any final touches, final points on console specs, hardware, and such, or can we move on to
Um,
first-party games?
I'll say that I'm really looking forward to the 120 FPS screen on portable mode. That'll be. I'm
Mhm.
looking forward to that because that sounds very very cool. And right now, it is a lot better than the Steam Deck because the normal Steam Deck LCD will be 60 FPS and the OLED Steam Deck is 90 FPS. So for the Switch 2 to be 120
Jesus.
FPS is actually very cool.
Yeah, to be honest,
It'll be
like
something quite cool to see.
I was expecting it to be able to get 120 FPS for TV output, but the fact that the actual like the refresh rate of the screen is well, it has to be 120 hertz, right? If they're doing 120 FPS. So the fact that
Yes.
they've got the ability to support that on handheld mode
Mhm.
itself is genuinely kind of crazy. And I guess that's probably you have some people complaining that it's not an OLED screen and it's just a standard LCD, but if the benefit of sticking with LCD is the fact that we can get such a high refresh rate out of it, I don't think anyone should be complaining about that at all.
But yeah.
I don't think many
Uh,
people will notice a difference, to be honest.
OLED consumes more power, so because of that, we have more battery life with LCD.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, definitely.
And one more thing, it will have variable refresh rate, so it'll be able to go up and down, meaning that you'll likely not get screen tearing.
Jesus, it
So it'll
sounds
have a
like
G-Sync.
they've got some
Yeah.
pretty solid tech that they're putting into this. Which again, it's
Yeah.
weird to see Nintendo utilizing like super clever technology because usually they just get away with the bare minimum. So it's weird to hear all of this stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
I think I'm very happy with how far they've gone. I think a lot of people were expecting for the Switch 2 to have worse specs than it currently does. And I think they're trying to, actually fill the gap from how far they are compared to things like PlayStation and Xbox. So we're in like a really good direction in terms of the hardware.
Mhm.
Something that some people have noticed and pointed out, and I think it is a good sign, is if you think back to the Switch 2 presentation, the three like main hardware producers that were presenting everything were all young guys. Like they were all newer, younger staff that we hadn't heard of before. So obviously that means that they're actually putting more modern developers forward to think about this stuff, and it's not just the old heads dominating anymore. So that's a very good sign about the direction of where the company is going to go, and hopefully it stays that way for a while.
Yeah.
I hope so as well. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, if we shift gear, we can move over to first-party games, and a first-party game that I'm looking forward to shifting gears in is going to be Mario Kart World, because that game looks genuinely fucking incredible.
It really does. I'm looking forward most to the free roam, that you can explore the whole world, and then you can co-op that with your friends.
So, okay.
So for me, that's most
So
part.
here's a question. This topic will either die if neither of you know what I'm talking about. Did either of you ever play Wii Sports Resort?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you remember the mode where you could fly around like free roam on the island with the plane?
Yeah.
And there were things
I
to
think so,
find,
yes.
and you could like try and unlock every single location or whatever. If they do something like that in free roam where there are things to collect, and so you want to like try and find all the little hidden areas on the map and everything, I will end up sinking so much time into that mode because I loved that
Yeah.
as a kid on Wii Sports Resort. So if they do something similar to that, where there's actually incentive or things to hunt down in free mode, that'll be cool. That'll genuinely be really cool.
Yeah, that would be a lot of fun as well. And since it's co-op, I could actually join you looking for
Yeah,
those
yeah,
things.
yeah, absolutely. You can do it cooperatively as well. Um,
Yeah,
and
that's the best.
it is like, I mean, it's hard to say because we've only just seen trailers. More on that in a bit because I've got something this weekend which will be exciting. But the people that have played it in person are saying that like the trailers aren't even doing it justice. Like the game looks insane, and I wonder if, because we'll get, again, this is another thing we'll get into later on about like the game's pricing and such, but Mario Kart is the most expensive game. The other games, and even the 3D DK game, is actually cheaper than Mario Kart. So I wonder if they've just put an absolute metric fuck ton of insane amount of R&D and development into that game, which is why they think they can warrant selling it for more. Because from what I've heard and the features and everything, it genuinely seems like it's the most jam-packed Mario Kart we're probably going to get for a very long time.
Yeah, I think so as well. I didn't hear about all the extra stuff they added in, but I think that would make a lot of sense why price is so high. So I do agree with you. And
I
if it's
think
like that, then I'm looking forward to it.
I know there's a lot of controversy surrounding the price, but for example, with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, I don't think anyone has a problem paying a bit extra for games like that because of how much content it has, how much time and development has went into it, and again, how many hours you can sink into it. And if this is the same story for Mario Kart, like if you can easily dump 150 hours into it, I don't think anyone's going to complain.
I mean, everyone's been playing the same Mario Kart for 12 years, and I mean, we've complained, but like not to the point where anyone's been super pissed about it. So I think playtime is going to be massive with this new game, 100%.
Agreed.
One thing that I'm curious about with the Mario Kart specifically is obviously every track links in to at least a couple other tracks, and I want to see how, like, for example, how the hell did you get to a Rainbow Road? How the hell do you get to an airship fortress? That kind of thing. The tracks where they're not, like, it doesn't make as much sense. So I hope they've really put thought and they've kind of got some cool, crazy stuff to link those together, because that could genuinely make that super cool. Imagine if multiple rainbow roads are connected to each other up top. That would be awesome.
Yeah, that'd be so cool because, as you said, hopefully it'll be similar to Mario Tours, where in the Android app you could actually do multiple routes.
Yes, I know what you mean. Yeah, definitely.
So that'd be cool if they could expand on that.
So moving on.
I think you're gonna see... Oh, sorry. I was gonna say I think you're gonna see a lot of new people coming to playing Mario Kart, because one big divide, I guess, was that it was just a racing game, and a lot of people wanted an open world experience. I mean, I feel like our friends just recently had a conversation about playing an open world driving game together, and now Mario Kart World has been announced. I think this reaches a larger fan base than its current pre-existing one. Like, there are going to be more people interested because of this, which is cool.
I think the most key component, and this is something we'll talk about later, so I'll just briefly mention it, is it very much depends on the competency of the online system.
Yeah.
Because that's going to be what will drive, like, the playtime beyond just the single player stuff. And Mario Kart Online at the moment is fine, but considering this is so much bigger scale, you have to hope that they've put a lot of, like, R&D into their servers and such to be able to support something like this.
We know, I honestly don't think there's going to be any issues, because we know Nintendo has been working on different networking tests. Like, there was that game that you played, I forget what it was called. It was like really secret or whatever.
It didn't even have a name. Yeah, they were testing like 200 player servers and stuff.
Yeah, that could be for Mario.
I think like that shows that they have already thought about that, so I really don't think there's going to be any issues. And if so, it will be worked out over time.
Yeah, definitely.
I agree. And plus, all of us have played Euro Truck Simulator game together at one point, and that was a lot of fun. So having an open world driving game will definitely be a lot of fun with this game as well.
Yeah, definitely.
And this actually has driving, not just going in a straight line. Like, this requires
some
more thinking.
Skill. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
So, funnily enough, we've spoken a bit, obviously, about Metroid Prime 4, we've spoken a bit about Mario Kart, but the weird thing is the only real other first-party game we know about is the 3D Donkey Kong game. And to be honest, it looks fucking stellar. Like, I am looking forward to that probably more than I would be looking forward to a 3D Mario, because it looks like the level destruction and the visuals and everything just look absolutely on point. And you can tell it was definitely made by the Odyssey team, because... like, if you look at when DK gets one of, like, the main bananas, which are obviously the collectibles, it almost looks identical to getting a moon in Odyssey. So it is literally the same team going ham on a 3D Donkey Kong, and I think that game is going to be crazy.
I mean, it's about time.
Yeah, because I've only played the 2D Kong games, but this looks actually amazing. It'll probably get me into playing more of the franchise.
To be fair, there's only one other 3D Donkey Kong game, and it's actually not very popular. Donkey Kong 64 is the only 3D DK game, and it's just kind of okay. So, like, this is the first real attempt since then, and that was a very long time ago now. So, the fact that they'll be able to do a whole bunch of different new things that you wouldn't really do in a Mario game means that this is probably going to be a really crazy good 3D platformer. So I'm very much looking forward to that.
Yeah, same. And
I mean, I don't think it'd ever be a bad game. I mean, how much experience do they have making 3D Mario games? I mean, back when Donkey Kong 64 came out, they didn't have as much experience in 3D games. But after, 20 years? Like, I really doubt it'd be anything but spectacular.
That's very true. Yep, definitely.
Definitely.
So, in regards to, because obviously we have so few first-party games to talk about, I guess the next question, and the next can of worms we can open up about is what do you want next? Like, let's say, for example, a week or two before the Switch 2 launches, they hold another Direct, because if you think the Switch 2 presentation pretty much only covered launch, and like a month or two after, and then some 2026 games, right? We don't know what the second half of the year looks like, and I'm sure they've got other things coming. So I wonder if there's going to be a direct right before or just after launch where they say, here's what the second half of 2025 and early 2026 looks like. So what do you guys what's your wish list of big first party games, because we really don't have many to talk about at the moment.
I would like a brand new Pokemon game, but making use of the Switch 2 engine, because the last big Pokemon game they released, the frame rates and resolution was actually really terrible. That it obviously made it look like Game Freak made a game that wasn't meant for the Switch One. So I'm hoping that they'll eventually release a new Pokemon game that makes use of that and that doesn't lag, and that's actually a lot of fun again.
Well,
And that's
Legends
definitely a wish list for me.
Legends ZA is actually getting a Switch 2 edition, which does immediately fix the frame rate and the resolution. So hopefully they take that and they learn from that, and then realize what they can
Yeah,
do with Pokemon to then make a new entry that's actually taking full advantage of everything.
definitely agreed. But there's also one thing that I'm looking forward to, is that they said that they are going to upgrade Scarlet and Violet.
Oh,
So
right.
that the game
Okay.
that was, yeah.
Huh.
So I think for free though, but because they'll actually upgrade that, the game actually might not look as bad anymore. Because I stopped playing because how horrible the performance was, even though it was fun. So when I do get a Switch 2, it'll actually be a lot fun to actually go back and continue playing that game with like better frame rates and
Yeah,
resolution.
that's a game I didn't finish either, actually. I got probably like 6 gym badges, and to be fair, it was fun,
Yeah.
but you are right. The kind of performance stuff did start to get a bit of a pain in the ass, and it definitely contributed to me stopping.
Yeah,
I
same
didn't
here.
finish it either. I ended up selling my copy, to be honest.
Jeez, fair enough.
Yes, that's fair enough.
Okay, any other wish list games, Zara? What have you got on your cards?
I would love a new Luigi game, specifically Luigi's Mansion 4.
Oh, same.
I
That'd be
mean,
so cool.
it
Did
doesn't
you?
have to be Luigi's Mansion, but something better than. What was the last Luigi game other than 3? It was
I
the
just think it is
fucking.
Mansion 3. Like, I don't think he
The
gets anything
Wii
else.
U?
They
I guess
The
they
one
maybe.
did
before
the
that was
two
the Wii
HD.
U,
Yeah, maybe
wasn't
the
it?
Luigi fucking version of
Yeah, the
Super Mario
Luigi.
U, I think. Maybe.
Yeah. I think there needs to be another unique Luigi game. I mean, I don't honestly know how popular Luigi's Mansion is, but I don't think Nintendo cares about it that much. But
Did
I
you
would
ever
love something like that.
did you ever play Mansion 3 in the end? Because I know you said you hadn't played it.
No, I
So
have not.
so I'm kind of split, right? Because
Okay.
I would quite like a new Luigi's Mansion game. And I wouldn't say that Luigi's Mansion 3 is bad. In fact, it is definitely a good game. But I feel like it got too how to say it got too big, and that
Mm,
is almost a negative towards the game, at least in my opinion. The problem is that's not really a design philosophy that's followed anymore. Like Luigi's Mansion 1's a game you can pop in and finish in like 3-4 hours and then just be done. And you don't really get games like that anymore. But I genuinely think that that is the first game's biggest strength, is the fact that it's
yeah.
super. It's not a very long game, but it's a very like fulfilling 4 hour game.
Yes.
And I wish that if they made a new Luigi's Mansion, it would be more focused like that. But the problem is if you have a game that's short like that, how do you justify selling it at full price and development time and blah 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 blah? So I don't
hmm
suspect that that's the way that they'll go. But I mean, seeing a new take on Luigi's Mansion, I wouldn't have any complaints about.
I honestly think they're kind of. They don't really know what path to go with Luigi's Mansion. I mean, the first game was fantastic. It was short, it was sweet, as you said. The second game was completely different. It had this weird level structure, and then they've kind of tried to do something of a mix of the two for 3. I think there is still so much potential for that series, and I think that they need more time to kind of figure out the, I guess, perfect execution of it. So I think another game is probably in works for the future.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I mean,
Yeah.
Luigi is the more popular brother of the two. Like that is actually just true
Yeah.
nowadays. So
Mhm.
a Luigi game
Yeah.
would do well.
I'd also look
Is
forward to
Kid
that.
Icarus like a first party IP?
It is.
Or is it?
The problem is Sakurai worked on the last one, and we now know what Sakurai is working on. So anything new Kid Icarus related is a very, very long way out, I think.
I think they should probably do remakes. Like, there's the two. I don't know how many games there are. Sorry, they're stuck on the DS and the 3DS, aren't they?
Yeah, Uprising on 3DS is a extremely popular game that struggled because of its control scheme. So a remake that put a modern control scheme into that game would be extremely popular, I think, actually.
I mean, I think Nintendo. I'm hoping with how they've now brought out a 3D Donkey Kong, they're gonna focus on more of the niche and the old first-party IPs. They've already done so much with Mario and Kirby and Zelda and whatnot, and I think it'd be a great time for them to focus on the older IPs that they've kind of neglected.
All I'll say is, Fitness Boxing has already done boxing with the Joy-Cons. It's time for Punch-Out to come back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Punch-Out on the Wii is actually an incredible game. It's time for a new Punch-Out.
Agreed, definitely.
I think that is very unlikely. But
It's
it would
extremely
be a
unlikely,
great thing.
yeah.
I mean, Tomodachi Life 2 came out, so, you never know.
Yeah, it's been over a decade since the last one, to be fair, so they are pulling some weird things out. That is true.
And I heard people say it's better than Animal Crossing, which
Yeah, I
never
hear
played
people say
Tomodachi
that
Life,
as well.
so,
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see as many people who talk about Animal Crossing talk about Tomodachi Life, but the fan base is like very passionate.
Okay.
That's quite cool.
Any more desired games for the future, Flav?
I definitely have a lot though. It would be cool, even though we are getting a Donkey Kong 3D. I would still like a Mario 3D. Mario is like one of my favorite games, so
Yeah, I
definitely at
feel
some
like
point.
they definitely will do it because every Nintendo console has its 3D Mario, right? And
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
true.
know if they're going to use 3D Donkey Kong as the example because it's not quite the same thing. So I do suspect that we would be getting a new 3D Mario. Now the question is would you guys prefer Odyssey 2 or Galaxy 3 in like style? Because they're very different games,
Galaxy
aren't they?
3.
Yeah,
Odyssey is great, but Galaxy
I'd
is
have to
just
think about that.
unmatched.
Yeah, sorry, I'd have to think about that. I'm not sure myself.
Hmm.
Fair enough. I think because we're getting 3D Donkey Kong that feels like an Odyssey game, to have something a bit more focused like a Galaxy 3 would probably be a good complementary piece to it.
Yeah, there has to be
Yeah.
diversity with the games. I think people would kind of get tired if they played Donkey Kong Odyssey
But
and
then
then
again,
they played Odyssey 2.
we also forget that this is Nintendo and they'll just like think up some new crazy bullshit that none of us could ever think about, and it'll just be a new 3D Mario which is crazy shit, and we'll all go, yeah, nice, fair enough.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
So, in regards to my wish list, is I've got obviously a very biased one for me. I want Pikmin 5 to not come out within 10 years from now, or 10 years from now. It needs to be sooner than that. The franchise is currently more popular than it's ever been, so there's definitely a desire for it. My biggest ask is that they either include difficulty options or reassess what they did with 4 and make it not as easy. Because Pikmin 4's biggest problem is it's an extremely easy game, and that definitely takes away from replayability and enjoyment of it, because there's no, like, being good at Dandori only really matters for the Dandori battles. In the actual days themselves, like, being good at multitasking doesn't matter because there's no real pressure. Like, Pikmin 3 had the pressure of the fruit. It wasn't that threatening. Obviously, Pikmin 1 had the pressure of the time limit. Pikmin 2 and 4 don't have any pressure for how quickly you have to go. But there's no urgency to the fourth game, and it was way too easy. So I hope that they take that on board and they kind of make something that's a bit, even if they just do it by difficulty options, and not like difficulty options like they put in 3 Deluxe, because the hard mode in that game was an absolute joke and it shouldn't ever be done again. I don't know if you guys know, but basically in Pikmin 3 Deluxe, The hardest difficulty mode, all it did was, I think it raised enemy health a little bit, and it maxed you out at only being able to have 60 Pikmin out instead of 100, and that was it.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like a lot.
All it did was, it just made the game more of a pain in the ass to play. It didn't make it harder, it just made it more frustrating. So either proper difficulty modes or a game that's a bit more balanced, I think, is what I would like. And hopefully not 10 years from now, so I can be playing it on my Switch 2 in like 2 years or 3 years.
Yeah,
Honestly, I think they should take a lot of inspiration from for the difficulty. I mean, that game is, I think, very balanced very well. I also agree with you. Like, as beautiful as Pikmin 4 is as a game, and as much as a great experience it is to play it, it is Pikmin 2 stands above it, probably because of the difficulty. Like, I've been playing through that semi recently and experiencing it for the first time, and having to deal with groinks and figuring out what the fuck those are and how not to have my Pikmin just die from fucking all of that.
I also wish we would lose some of the forced, like, automation. Like, Pikmin 4 almost plays itself at points. And parts of Pikmin 1 and 2 that are fun are, like, being good at fighting enemies by being in full control of the combat. In Pikmin 4, the game really does just feel like it plays itself sometimes. Like, all you have to do is just strafe around enemies and throw Pikmin, and the cursor is just constantly always locked onto them, so you'll just never miss.
Yeah, I have yet to go into the Pikmin series, but I think I should at some point, because
Yes,
it does sound like a lot of fun.
I will definitely draft you into that series sometime soon, now that I know that, because
cool.
it is my favorite
Okay,
series,
thank you.
so
Yeah.
that is going to happen, don't worry.
Okay, fair enough. Review coming soon.
Okay, so shifting over to third-party games now, there's a couple different things to speak about. Obviously, we've got some pretty major ones like Elden Ring made it over, which everyone saw coming. Final Fantasy VII Remake made it over, which everyone saw coming. There were crazy fucking holy shit moments, like obviously the new FromSoft game Duskblood's coming out as a console exclusive, which is madness. I guess we could use this to say, are there any third-party games that you guys are like happy to see are coming to Switch 2? Are there any other games that you hope come to Switch 2 in the future? What do you think about the third-party side of it?
I'm happy that Yakuza's coming out, but it is interesting that it's going to be a timed exclusive for Nintendo Switch. Because I remember, I think ages ago when the Switch One was still in its prime, some director said that Yakuza's not meant to be for the Switch, but now it is coming out for the Switch.
Yeah,
so
that was the previous series producer who's actually left the series
Yeah.
a couple years ago now. So it's not surprising that they're a bit more open to it nowadays because they've got a different guy leading it all. But yeah, they seem again. It seems like Nintendo is swinging around a lot of money to be getting an exclusive FromSoft game, to getting a Yakuza game that is a timed exclusive. Like, they're taking this really seriously, which I think is actually a good thing to see for once.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So, and apparently it has more. We have more exclusives on the Switch 2 than the PlayStation 5 already, which is
Well, the PlayStation 5 has about 2, so that's not particularly surprising.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of sad, but pretty cool. And yeah, I mostly would buy games that are exclusive to Switch 2 because I have a PC and a Steam Deck already, so I don't need to
absolutely
spend extra money. But yeah,
well, I suppose the question is if the Switch 2 ends up running games better than the Steam Deck somehow, then maybe that'll change in time, but we'll have to see.
Definitely, yes. But yeah, we'll have to see about that.
What about you? Are any games you were super happy to see show up or that you want to show up in future?
I think, again, Duskbloods and Elden Ring was definitely a huge highlight. I mean, I think that in itself is insanely impressive. A Street Fighter 6 was also pretty fucking cool.
A lot of people said that one wouldn't happen. Like, a lot of people thought that was never going to happen for some reason. So, to see that there is obviously a very good sign.
Yeah. I also think the addition of Silk Song coming is pretty cool. I think the Switch. Yeah, 6-second Silk Song. I don't know.
Yeah.
That in itself is something else, but I think when I think of a Switch, I think of platformer games, for example, to be played on it. Like, games you use a controller for, I think should just naturally be on the Switch. And I think we're at a point where it can be competition for the Steam Deck. I mean, it literally is, and in some aspects, it is better. So honestly, I'm open to anything coming on the Switch as long as it's within reason.
And also,
and can run properly.
Also, technically, the Switch has the advantage of being able to get more PC games on it because it has a mouse controls option, whereas the other consoles don't have that. Like, if you have like RTSs and strategy games that are kind of always like traditionally PC controlled games that don't really do well on consoles, technically Switch has the window to try and take some of those as well, which the other platforms can't do.
I mean, I think it'd be awesome if Civ 7 or something like that, or even 6 or 5 would be on the Switch.
Civ 7 is confirmed day one Switch 2.
Yeah, and the devs are very happy about it.
And
they say that the Switch is like a mid-tier PC. That's what the devs say.
Yeah.
So they're very happy with this.
They even showcased it, and the mouse controls for Civ 7 will work at launch. Like, it is compatible fully. So, that is already a thing, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, honestly, anything. I think the more they expand their library, the better it gets. So
yeah, definitely. So there's one game that we have to speak about because there's a bit of a community blow-up happening over it. But the moment you look into it, or if you actually know what you're talking about, it falls apart immediately, which is usually how this stuff goes. Obviously, Cyberpunk is coming to the Switch, and a lot of people were watching the trailer and going, "Ooh, that doesn't look great." And then the reports came out that it was going to be running at only 40 FPS and blah 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 blah. And everyone's sitting there going, "Oh look, the Switch 2, it's so underpowered. Oh guys, look, it's a terrible console. It can't even run Cyberpunk at 60 FPS, 1080, blah 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 blah." And what people seem to forget is the fact that the Steam Deck cannot run Cyberpunk better than 30 FPS at its current time.
Yes, because I've tested it myself, but this is before the Cyberpunk updates, and I was getting 30 FPS quite comfortably. I think on medium settings as well.
Yeah. So, for some reason, there's this massive blow-up about the fact that Cyberpunk is only going to run at 40 frames per second. But modern consoles struggle to run the game. The game was notoriously buggy at launch. The fact that people don't see this as a developer issue and not a console issue blows my mind, because this game was like one of the most notoriously bad releases since like No Man's Sky. So the backlash over this is just truly insane, because it just makes no sense the moment you realize or you know a bit more of the facts about the situation.
Yeah, and they do say it's currently at 40 FPS, so that means they're still working on it, and maybe in a few months they will be able to get even better FPS, because the people at CD Projekt Red are actually really nice, really good, because they were able to get the Switch, The Witcher 3 on the Switch running at 60 FPS, which apparently people said was also impossible. So they did a very good job of that. So I do believe that they can do a good job with Cyberpunk 77 as well.
Yeah, it just depends on whether they actually put effort into it or if they half-ass it, because but to try and say that it's a hardware issue is just truly funny, because the Steam Deck has notoriously struggled, and everyone knows that the Steam Deck was powerful than a Switch, was more powerful than the Switch. So, yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
I think, honestly, the backlash is very misplaced. Firstly, Cyberpunk is in a way better stage than it was at launch. They fixed a lot of the bugs, they've been constantly working on it, but I'm gonna be honest, I don't think Cyberpunk belongs on a Switch or on a Steam Deck. There are some games that are just meant for super high performance machines, and that's something that was a big thing for Cyberpunk, about how realistic it was and how graphically amazing it was, and the fact that you want to run a game which its main focus is how it looks on something like a Switch or a Steam Deck, I think that's a bit stupid. Like, you can't expect every single console to run every single game. Like, there are some things that it can't run, and I don't think that's a problem. I just don't think it belongs on either of them, honestly, and if you want to play it, I mean, I guess this sucks, but you should probably invest into a PC or something.
I agree. I would definitely prefer to play Cyberpunk on my PC.
Yep.
Because there I get maxed out 120 FPS. So definitely wouldn't get it.
It's literally, it's a showcase for how far we've gone.
It's like the modern Crysis 3. Like, Crysis 3 used to be the benchmark game, right? This is just one of those situations.
Yeah.
I don't know why you would ever want to play a game like that at 40 FPS, and it is not a Nintendo fault. It is not a Valve fault. I think it's the player's fault for expecting something like this. It just doesn't belong on these consoles. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Definitely is.
Yeah.
So moving on from third-party games, obviously still going. Technically, we're going back to. I guess this is a mix of first and third-party games. The Switch 2 is actually having GameCube support at launch, which is crazy to finally say out loud. Especially considering there are so many GameCube games that if you want to play them legally, you need to sell your kidney to do so. And the fact that they actually even showed a couple of those as the early games that are coming almost makes me think like they're realizing that and they're going to try and finally make some of these difficult to play games easily accessible. Like obviously Path of Radiance is notoriously like £300 if you want to go buy it. I think even Pokemon XD is like another one of those extremely expensive games, and they were literally among the first 3 games shown coming after launch. So they clearly have a good idea in regards to what games they're putting out. Are there any games you guys are particularly looking forward to, or any games you have on your wish list for GameCube NSO?
The Pokemon game definitely for me, because I heard apparently it was really good, and it is like technically the first 3D Pokemon game. So I'm definitely looking forward to playing that actually. It comes out. Wind Maker is also pretty good because I haven't played that either. But apparently, people said that the HD version was a lot better because it had a lot of
yeah, they put
like,
a lot of quality of life in that game, and the problem is it's kind of hard to play Wind Waker the original with those existing now. So, yeah, it's a weird one. I definitely would have preferred Wind Waker HD to be put on because that is genuinely an incredible game. But I mean, the original is definitely not bad. You can still play it and have fun. You're just gonna have to suffer through some of the original issues.
Yeah, that's true. But definitely Pokemon for me though. Probably I'm pre-ordering a Switch too, so probably day one I'll start playing Pokemon games on that thing.
Yeah, nice.
That Pokemon. Yeah.
All right.
Well, I think Melee obviously needs to be put there. Was that announced, or am I
No,
crazy?
so an interesting thing is Melee wasn't shown, which I think most people thought was a lock because Melee is almost synonymous with the console. But something that I read recently, and when I read it, I was like, huh. Technically, still to this day, on N64 Online, Smash 64 is not available either. So, it's almost like for some reason they're holding on to these games and not releasing them, and I don't know whether there's a reason for that, but I find it weird. Because, again, I think most people, if you were told, by the way, GameCube will be at launch for Switch 2, everyone would go, oh, so Melee is there day one. And the fact that it's not, and also the fact that Smash 64 isn't available, almost makes you think something weird's going on, and I don't quite know what that is.
Agreed. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a new Smash in the works. I mean, I know you said during the presentation, before we saw the announcement, like before we saw the showcase of the GameCube NSO, that they probably wouldn't put Melee on it if they were going to do a new Smash and whatnot. So I think it's possible. I don't know why they wouldn't do the 64. That is strange. Other than Melee though, I think now that we have Metroid Prime 4 and Metroid Prime 1 on the Switch, it only makes sense that we have Metroid Prime 2.
Do you think Prime 1 will be released on GameCube Online?
I don't think so, because they did the...
Yeah. That would probably be counterintuitive to try and do that. So yeah, I think not. But then it would also be a bit weird if NSO had Prime 2 and not Prime 1. I don't know. We'll just have to see what they do.
Yeah. Twin Snakes would be an amazing game to put on. I think that is also... I doubt it, but that is also
that would be
an
awesome.
Game.
But yeah, I really doubt it. Jesus, that would be great.
Skies of Arcadia would also be cool. Yeah.
I am absolutely looking forward to F-Zero GX having up-resed graphics as well as being playable online. Like
Yeah.
F-Zero
That'd be great.
GX Online is like, or multiplayer is like one of the craziest games you can play, and the fact that it is now finally online ready is like going to be absolute madness. And people are going to realize how insanely brutally difficult the story mode for that game is, because people don't
Yeah.
know. Like if you've played the game, you know, but most people wouldn't think of a story mode in an F-Zero game being brutal, but that is probably one of the hardest single player games on the GameCube, unironically.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Was there was another game I was thinking of for the GameCube. Fuck,
I think
I've lost
it'll
it.
be a while before we see any Mario Party games, because obviously there's the new version, the Switch 2 edition of the current one that they're going to be like swinging around. So I think it'll be a while before we get Mario Parties, but I think they will inevitably come around. If they can put Eternal Darkness on there, I will lose my shit.
Mm-hmm.
It's another one of those
Definitely.
ones where I think it's not happening, but if somehow Eternal Darkness ends up on there, that would be great. And also,
Oh.
put Mario Golf on there, and I will play that with everyone online every day.
Yeah.
There because I have the online expansion for Nintendo 64, they added another app called N64 Mature,
Hmm.
where they had a lot more mature games.
Yes, they did. Yeah,
So maybe they'll do that for Eternal Darkness then.
I hope so. That game,
Yeah.
that's another game that is just locked to the GameCube, and unless you have a GameCube, you can't play it. It's been like that
Yeah,
for so
it's
long.
really great.
I don't know
Did
if it's
they,
an expensive game. It's been a while since
Uh,
I've checked,
uh,
but it's not an easily playable game.
Yeah, it's $210 and
Jesus.
on
Okay.
special. Yeah,
Christ.
did
so
they say that
yeah,
Twilight Princess was coming?
No.
If not, that is a game that would be cool.
Yeah, I suspect
yeah,
Twilight
It's
Princess
not
will be
down
there.
yeah. That's
I
a
mean,
Wii
I'd
game.
imagine
Hey,
they do a. I'd imagine they do a remake, if anything.
Twilight Princess
Like,
was actually both
yeah.
GameCube and Wii. Flav. It was you know how
Interesting.
Breath
Okay.
of the Wild released on both Wii U and
Yes,
Switch. It was the same with Twilight
yes.
Princess.
mhm.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah,
Nice.
there is actually a GameCube version. Fun fact.
That's amazing.
Hmm.
Huh.
Honestly, I am. I'm pretty happy that GameCube is now on the Switch. I'm somebody that, of course, emulates a lot, but emulation is getting harder to do due to Nintendo. And honestly, I don't mind at all that it's on the Switch. It makes it easier, it makes it portable, and
Yeah,
like
definitely.
when they talk about the 6.5 hours of battery life, when you play the NSOs, that is what you're going to be getting. Like
Yeah.
you'll have a lot of full play time with these old games, which I think is a huge plus.
And
So,
what
Yeah.
I also think is a great side effect of GameCube finally being out on NSO is I think the GameCube has one of the best libraries when it comes to like party games and playing with groups of people. So the fact that hopefully in time all of those will be added and have online support means that there will be a lot of extra really fun multiplayer games that will finally be accessible for
Mhm.
people to play. And that's a big win because nowadays it is so hard to find fun multiplayer games.
mhm.
It is. It really is. I never had a GameCube when I was a kid. I had a PlayStation 2,
Hmm,
but
fair
that
enough.
era is one of my favorite eras, so I can understand.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, we've been all positive and fun and cool details, but I think it's now finally time that we probably close with the big one. Obviously, the console pricing, the games pricing, the reactions to all of this. It's something that does need to be discussed. It's something that's a very divisive topic, and for anyone to say that they understand it fully is, I think, a lie because there's so many different factors that go into it. So it's hard to really get a clean picture of the situation, but it's definitely
Mhm.
something that we need to talk about. So, I mean, first of all, the actual console price itself. Um, I think for Western territories, like, well, I was going to say the US price, but fuck knows what's about to happen to that. But the initial price they had for the US, the price that they've got for the UK, and the price that they've got for most European countries, I honestly think is fair. Um, it's about in the middle of where I expected the range to be. Like, I was expecting kind of like 300 to 500 would be like worst case, 300 would be best case, and it's 400, so it's sat right in the middle. So I think the console price itself makes sense, especially with how much extra tech there is in it. And you also have to remember, like if you think about building PCs at the moment, the price of components are like so much higher than they've ever been. So tech is just having that issue where to actually manufacture these parts is just absurdly expensive nowadays. So it's not surprising at all that the console price went up. But yeah, I mean, I guess obviously, Flav, I know your country has decided to troll you because it does like to do that, and they've added on a shit ton of extra money to it for no reason.
Yeah, yeah, I have actually with imports, but I also do think that the console price is fair.
What was it? What remind me? What was it compared to the Steam Deck? What did you pay for? What was the comparison? Was it like similar, or was it more, or was it less?
No, my Steam Deck was a lot more because I got mine from eBay. So.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Yeah, the Switch 2 right now is a lot cheaper than the Steam Deck, so it's the one I got.
Okay.
And I do think I can check the prices now for my country because for a Steam Deck, let me just quickly check.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
I do think the Switch 2 is still less.
Okay.
Take a look.
Nice.
Yeah, the Steam Deck is about cheaper than 2,000 Rand, but I guess it's more or less the same.
Mm-hmm.
Like, very close.
Okay, fair enough. Alright, what are the prices looking like in the land down under? Have they been like?
It's.
Has it been like price hiked, or is it like kind of comparable to everywhere else?
It's actually in terms of like direct. What's the word? Like comparison to a US or a UK price, it's fairly been. I'd say it's semi-fair. I still don't want to pay that price. It's 700 for the console alone. But again, Australian money is just funny.
Well, yeah, fair enough.
I do agree. I do agree with you though that I think people who claim that they understand it completely don't. There are so many factors to consider into it, and something that you pointed out that I thought was interesting is comparing it to the price of consoles 20 years ago, and it actually matches with inflation.
Yeah. And here's the thing. Like, people are saying... So again, let's take... we'll go with the US prices. Obviously, these are subject to change because of something we'll talk about in a bit. But let's say $450 is the Switch 2 price, okay? You can spend $500 US to get the console in the game, being Mario Kart. You need to spend $700 US to get a PlayStation 5 without a game. And people are outraged over the price of the Switch 2. And that, to me, is what makes no sense. Like... all those people own PS5s with no fucking games to play, no exclusives, and they had to pay $700 US to get that console. And the Switch is $450 or $500 with a game boxed in for a super impressive tablet, which is probably harder to manufacture tech because you have to use slimmer models of things. You can't use traditional GPUs and all of that. So I don't understand the outrage over the price. It's like we've forgotten that the PS5 and the Xbox exist.
Yeah, and the PlayStation 5 is 5 years old, and it's still going for that price.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, you're exactly right. People are talking about a PS... Isn't there already a PS5 Pro?
There is. It did come out last year.
Yeah. So people are already talking about a PS6, and yet the PS5 is still more money than the Switch 2. So it's like, are you crazy?
Yeah.
Have we just forgotten about this?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure the PS6 would actually be a lot more money than the PS5 right now as well. Yeah.
I think this is another issue where people's anger is misplaced, because again, in terms of inflation, it's completely fair, and I think something that people I don't think they're mad at Nintendo. I think they're mad in general at how the world is with money. Like, we know how expensive houses are these days. People are having to spend more on groceries, rent, and other things, that they have less money. And so when they see how much a console is, obviously it's a lot to them, and they don't, at the surface level, you don't really think about inflation, but it is fair.
But you know what?
Again, I think it's just misplaced.
It's going to be one of those things. Everyone's complaining about it now. Everyone will own one. Everyone will own one. Nothing's going to change. Everyone's going to own one. So I think it's like it's not to say that the frustration is misplaced, because obviously having less spending money and then having to part with that little spending money you have is obviously a terrible feeling. And it's so easy to say, oh, but Nintendo just lowered the price and it's more affordable. But it's like they are still a business at the end of the day. Like, no, it's not bootlicking to say the company still needs to make money, because if the company doesn't make money, they don't exist. And the consoles are exactly right. The thing that people forget is the consoles are already sold at a loss anyways, so they don't make money on the Switch 2. It's always been, you release a console, the console is sold at a loss, you make up for that console loss with software sales. That's how it works. So if they dropped the price, they would be bleeding money, which makes even less sense. So it's just, it's just one of those moments where people don't fully understand.
You know what's interesting? You were mentioning on the PS5, Sony has actually come out and said that they don't sell their consoles at a loss.
Well, great. There you go. Go be mad at Sony. They want $700 from you because they don't want to fucking sell consoles at a loss anymore. But then again, they also don't have any games, so they don't have games to make up for the money, so I guess they have to.
I think, as much as it sucks again because people have less spending money than they did back 20 years ago, it's fair. It's just the way that it is. And you should not be angry at Nintendo, be angry at literally everything else that is unfairly taking your money. Nintendo's not doing that.
Now, that's...
I mean, it's still
so that's from the hardware point of view. The side that I'm a little bit more inclined to agree with is the fact that the price of the games are skyrocketing so much. Because that's a bit... It's kind of hard to point the same inflation point at that, because... really, what is it? There's just the cost of developing the game, and then the cost of the cartridge if you're selling it physically. I think the digital cost should be much lower than it is, because you don't have to worry about like splitting revenue with, say, for example, gaming retailers. You don't have to spend the cost of the actual the cartridges themselves. It's all money that goes directly to them, because it's not like... I mean, have you ever seen a key for a Switch game? I don't think I have. Maybe they exist, but I don't think I have. So, you know for a fact that money for digital sales is all going directly to them. So that is where I absolutely think that there should be quite a big difference of like £20-25 difference between a digital and a physical game, if we have to have physical games that expensive to start with. Obviously, it's a super depressing fact, because it is going to indirectly kill even more physical collections. Like, I literally am staring at my Mario Kart shelf, where I have every single copy of every Mario Kart game that's ever been released, and I don't think I'm getting the new one physically. And that's going to suck, because for my collection, that should be on that shelf, but I really don't know if I want to part with that much money for a physical. Maybe what I'll end up doing is I'll wait like 6 years, and then it'll be cheap, and I'll buy it, and I'll throw it on the shelf. But not many people are going to do that, and it's going to kill collecting and having physical copies. And it's always... we've always been moving in the direction of we're going to be digitally dominated. But the game's pricing is definitely where I have a little bit of a different opinion on it. I think we are going a bit crazy.
I mean, I think paying a couple $100 for a console is understandable. Again, you're gonna have that console for a long fucking time. It's an amazing machine, but like over here, the new Mario Kart is just shy of $120. I've said this many times, but for the sake of the podcast, I'll say it again. I spend less money on groceries a week. Like, that is insane to think that I have to fork over that much to play a game. And with all the games that are coming out released, Mario Kart, Donkey Kong, Metro Prime 4 is going to be coming soon, everything else, you're going to spend another couple $100 on just games alone.
And that's going to lead to people buying less games and owning less games, and that's sad, because then there's less people talking about those games. And
I think it's going to cause a problem. Like, they want more people to play these games. At the prices that things are, I think you're going to have less players. getting themselves these games.
Yeah, and
And something that
my
you mentioned.
country.
Oh,
Oh, sorry,
go ahead.
sorry, Annette. Sorry. My country, the price has doubled for the current games. So I mean, that's really a lot. So I also have an issue with the games,
We've
and I
not
hope
quite
they
doubled.
will.
I think we're like, usually they're like 50 quid, 55 pounds at the moment, and I think they're looking to be about 75, 80 quid at the moment. So we've gone up like 20, 25 pounds, which is still pretty crazy. I've
They
said this outside of the podcast, but this is interesting to have on the record. It makes me really worried about what Rockstar think they're going to be able to get away with charging Grand Theft Auto 6 will be. I think that will be the first, like, Western currency triple-digit game where they charge you $100 for it, and then that's just, like, absolutely absurd.
I'm expecting over $100, honestly.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I'm paying for
That's a
$100.
whole other subject. But Kieran, something you said about how we're kind of transitioning into digital games. Something that I think that's interesting about the price of the physical Switch games is some of them don't even have the games on them anymore. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have heard about that.
Oh, the
So
game
what
keys.
yeah, so they're going to
Yes.
be charging a
So
premium to
it'll
buy
it'll be
physical
like
games.
it'll be like the PlayStation 5. You buy the disc, you get the code, but then all the game files are on the internet, so you have to download it.
So I need
So,
to I need to add a caveat to this because there is, like, at the moment there's a bit of fucking panic and misinformation being spread. So yes, that is a thing that is currently happening. However, the thing to note is that that will be something that is fully at the discretion of the developer. So the developer is the one that can that is going to be actively choosing to be an asshole and make their physical game be a digital download. It's like a lot of people are thinking that all of the, like, first party Switch games are going to be downloads and you're never going to have any of them physically. That is something that is a choice that's being given to the developers, and they will make that choice whether they do that or not. So considering that's already happening in the industry, that's not a Nintendo problem. Again, that's just them falling in line with all of the other companies. Think of all, there's so many Xbox and PlayStation games where you get a disc and it's just a download. So it's the developers that are being shitty and do that. It's not a Nintendo thing. It's not going to be in every single game. That'll be an active choice from the developer. And developers that do that should be criticized for it, because that is dumb.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Yeah, thank you
I
for
think
explaining it then.
Yeah,
Or
I think if
clarifying.
anything, Nintendo will be probably the last big gaming corporation that still has games on their cartridges. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised by the next
Yeah.
generation of the Xbox and the PlayStation. They kind of start ditching physicals altogether, as in not
Yeah.
even really selling them. And also,
Yeah.
people, I think people panic a lot about, games only being digital, and I do agree that it sucks. And there's the whole not even owning your games thing, but that's been around longer than people think. I mean, Valve's had that in their terms and service for a long fucking time.
Yeah.
It's just more recently come to light. This has been the reality for ages.
Well, so does anyone have anything else to add about the kind of the console pricing, the games pricing? Obviously, the community reaction's been abysmal. There was the Nintendo Treehouse stream where it was being fucking chat bombed with drop the price, which, again, I get it. I think it's an overreaction and it is depressing, but, like, there's not much that can be done. We're just gonna have to see and realize that this is the economy now, I guess. But yeah, it's a bit of a mess.
Yeah, I think you've said all you needed to say.
And we'll end with a very, very brief point, because this is where we'll be wrapping up the podcast for the night. Obviously, God knows what's happening to the poor Yanks, as they're having an America moment. Obviously, this Trump tariff shit, which is 35% to Japan, has made Nintendo cancel their pre-orders for the entire region because they don't know what they are going to do for the price. People aren't sure whether they're going to have to bring the price up for the American consumer market because of this, or if they're going to try and negotiate. But yeah, America is having a moment, so good luck with that, guys.
Definitely good luck.
I feel sorry for them, but also I don't. This was their choice. They chose the president,
Yeah,
What do you expect?
valid.
Yeah.
Okay.
Valid.
Well, I think that's about it for the podcast. If anyone has any closing remarks, obviously feel free to share them now. Otherwise, I think we're all good.
Yeah, that's it.
I have pre-ordered the Switch too, because for us the pre-orders opened up last week, so I have pre-ordered one. So I'll be able to give a review when it comes, and hopefully, I'm hoping for good things.
I believe pre-orders open for us in 2 days' time, so I'll be pre-ordering mine as well. Obviously, also, I am actually going to the Nintendo Switch 2 event this weekend. I actually have a ticket, so hopefully the next time we do the podcast, I'll actually have some hands-on impressions, and we can talk a little bit more about that from a more personal point of view. And then, like you said, Flav, I'm sure we'll do some console reviews and information when we've actually got it in our hands, and we can kind of provide a bit more accurate information. That'll be certainly interesting.
Definitely, yes.
Perfect. Okay, well, that is the end of the read-only podcast for the start of Season 2, so thank you to everyone for listening, and to our viewers in America,